doing some streaming tonight. Just want to do a little live Q&A, live Star Wars chat. Just hang out and talk about it. Don't have any questions yet, obviously. I just started, but I'll be answering your questions. We're going to talk Star Wars. If you just want to, share opinions or ask gaming questions or anything, whether you want to ask questions about, video gaming, board gaming, or just Star Wars in general, it's all good. We're going to do all of that. And let's see, I'm just sharing this out. What I'm going to do first is start off going through some questions that I've gotten on YouTube comments and things like that. So there is, let's see. Yep. All right. Wow, are these all? These can't be from right now. I haven't gotten this many questions yet. Wow, did I get this many questions already? Holy goodness. All right, well, we have a lot of questions already. All right, so let me start off pretty early. Let's see. Massive blocks. What's my favorite ship? That's the B-Wing. Easily B-Wing. For the Empire, it's high advanced. Now, these are just favorite ships in canon, not necessarily like favorite ships in specific games. Because like in Armada, my favorite ship is the Arquitens light cruiser, and then X-Wing, probably still the B-Wing there, but yeah. My opinion, Sparks of Gaming, my opinion on the new customization coming to Battlefront 2. Yeah, I did a video about it just recently. I think it's too little too late. And it's not just the fact that it's customization, but it's that it's, they're adding the real money transaction option back to it. And I just have I've started to get a more and more sour taste in EA over the past couple of months. Whether it's like my kids had been playing some EA games and the cash shop has gotten out of control over there. They wanted something for, like, there was some legendary skin they could get for this Plants vs. Zombies game, but you had to buy $45 worth of coins or whatever. And this is a game, I mean, it's a game that anybody can play, but it's the animation, everything, and it's kind of like a kid's game. And they're telling these little kids that beg their parents for $45 worth of, and so I was okay with it at launch because I didn't think that it was that big a deal. But now I'm starting to my eyes are I'm evolving on that position, and I'm kind of getting annoyed with it because it's too much and it's all over the place. So, not really a big fan of. Now, granted, if what they're doing had been done at launch, I think it would have been perfect. So yeah, is there any? So Slytherin Snape, there's a lot of questions, so I'm sorry if I miss some of yours. Slytherin Snape asks, is there any future for Star Wars Rebellion? Great question. This is one of the best board games of all time. It may be my #1 board game of all time. I have to probably re-rank things because it's definitely up there. The only downfall is that it's only 2-player. I want more people to be able to join in on it. I think there could be, but I don't know if there really has to be. I mean, they can always, all right, so if you look at the last expansion for it, gosh, what happened to my box for it? I think it's inside the game box. The expansion for it is good. It adds stuff, but it's not crucial. You don't really need it. And expansions like that are fine. And so they could always just put in a Han Solo expansion or something like that. And they could add more stuff to it, but it's just not needed. It's it's a complete game. It feels really good. I would only really want another expansion for it if it was really going to be meaningful. I don't want them to just put out expansions that are oh, well, this adds a new ship and it adds more complexity, and because I don't get to play it that often, because Rebellion takes a long time to play. Rebellion takes hours to play, and it's good hours. These are great hours. So the problem I have with Rebellion is that only 2 people can play it. I would love for more people to be able to play a Star Wars board game. So I would actually rather a whole different... Oh, and we got the cops or the ambulance is going on here. Sorry if you can hear that. But yeah, so, but yeah, no, Rebellion's amazing. I don't think it needs anything else. I don't want them to just add stuff, adding more complexity to it for the sake of adding it. I would want them to add something to maybe make it, you know, add a third player or a third side. Not necessarily, wow, and my stream is going really, really poorly right now. It's not a bad neighborhood. It's good that we have an ambulance that can go help somebody. Maybe that's what it wants. Maybe somebody's having a heart attack. All right, but yeah, Rebellion. It's healthy enough and it's a good enough game that could totally do it. But I don't think they really need to. Let's see. Let's look. Let's find out what else we got. How many more waves? Nate Hammer is asking me. How many more waves do I think Armada has? That's a good question. Because, you know, look at X-Wing, right? Armada is in the Galactic Civil War timeline. Turns out it's like, I guess you need a license for each timeline you're going to use. And so X-Wing doesn't have like the license to make prequel stuff. Armada, they should get the license to make prequel stuff, but I'm guessing that there's probably a high cost point involved in that. Or maybe they just want to wait. I think it was more likely a sequel trilogy license. It was probably very cheap. Especially when X-Wing got it, because they were trying to promote it, so they were trying to get people on board. So the more stuff you can get out for this new, untested kind of product was going to be great. Are we? How are we doing? We're still streaming. Okay. Huh. Wow. Strange that it's going so slow. But yeah, so I think Armada's got a couple of waves left, especially since the waves have been shrinking. But yeah, so I think it's probably got at least 3 or 4 more waves before they change up the formula. I think if they change up the formula for Armada, that will be like maybe getting a new license. So maybe sequel trilogy, maybe prequel trilogy. Certain games, don't forget, like it's not like FFG is not allowed to make stuff. They just have to be licensed to make stuff for specific games. If you look at Star Wars Destiny, Destiny covers the entire spectrum. So it certainly shows that they can, you know, you have General Grievous and you know, and Darth Maul. You know, you have all this other stuff in Destiny, and you have sequel. You have all 3 timelines. I think depending on what some of the new movies, what form they take, if they involve capital ships. You know, and things like that, and depending on what timeline those are, we are very likely to see, you know, more stuff from those, because getting licensed to make them is going to be very cheap. Because think about it like this: Disney doesn't have to. There's no real financial incentive right now for Disney to promote the prequel trilogy, to promote its digital sale and its products and stuff, because that's all old. There's no hype with that right now. So, if you're going to, if you're going to get a license from them for something that they don't really want you to promote, or they don't really benefit by you promoting, it's going to cost a lot more, because they got to. So I don't think we'll see prequel trilogy stuff for a while, unless, of course, they come up with new movies or a new trilogy or a new something in that prequel trilogy timeline. If they went back and said like another Clone Wars era TV show, bam! Now you're going to get all that stuff because they need to promote that new line. I think that would be really cool, because after so much time has passed, I just watched a video earlier today from the Clone Wars when it was a big space battle, and I was just thinking, man, their space battles were really, really good. And as somebody who's becoming more and more of a fan of larger and larger space battles, I'm huge into that. So yes, so I think there's several more waves left. And if they start to run out of Galactic Civil War timeline stuff, they can still pull from Legends. They've been doing it in multiple of their games. And I don't think it'll be that much of a problem. Let's see. Let's see here. Let's see. We gotta find some more questions here. I skipped over a whole lot of stuff. Let's see. It's not the Popo. Prequel era, yeah. So I also had another question about prequel era ships in Armada. I mean, I would love that, but it's going to be a while, and I think if they did that, the cost of the game might end up going up too. So because they'd have to get a license to make it. It all depends on what happens next. I don't know what Rian Johnson's trilogy is going to be. I don't know what Dan and Dave from Game of Thrones, what timeline they're going to make their stuff in. There's a whole lot of unknowns. I have a feeling most of what gets made is going to be somewhere around the time of post Return of the Jedi. I think most things are going to be around that timeline, just because that gives them a lot of flexibility and a lot of freedom. There's a lot of stuff still to, to talk about, like the birth of the First Order. There's a lot of that sort of thing. They can talk about unknown regions. There's so many things. Now you have Thrawn. By the way, for purposes of this, it's been long enough. I think it's fair game at this point to talk about Star Wars Rebels. And since, I mean, it's been over now for a couple of weeks, I think it's fair to talk about that. So, I'd ask you not deliberately try to spoil stuff, but try not to be a jerk about it, but I mean, we're going to be able to talk about that. All right, so Parker McClintock, increased points to 450. I think I think you're talking about Armada again. I would rather do it in groups of 100. Like, I'd rather go up to 500. 450, I don't know if that's big enough to make a significant difference, because getting a points change is a big deal, and I would like to be able to go to 500. Because they've already kind of been feeling around with 500 for the Corellian conflict. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Is the deployment space too small for larger ship bases? That's a good question from Parker McClintock. Some people actually were asking me about that in my last video talking about the epic scale for Armada. I don't think so. Reason being, even when you are doing an 800-point game, and I've done some of those lately, I still have ample space. It gets a little tight, but a larger ship, we don't have to necessarily go to 800 points. But not only that, I'm going to use an example. I'm going to grab something real quick. Okay. We're going to grab a CR90 for X-Wing, and part of my base fell off. But, your deployment space is only barely bigger than just this part right here. So what they do in X-Wing is, if your ship is bigger than the deployment space, you just have to have one part of it touching the back. So you can just have it going straight up. And like normally you couldn't go past here, but you're just going to have it going that way. So, yeah. So basically, I don't think deployment space would be an issue. You just have to be deployed facing the enemy. You wouldn't necessarily, you'd have a harder time deploying, trying to strafe, and go that way. You might have to just deploy straight. Also, you can, if the bases are that much larger, you could have special deployment rules for them. Like maybe they have to deploy first. Like all the epic ships, if we're talking Armada, or even X-Wing, if they do a larger than large scale. Like if they were to bring out like medium or like Nebulon Bs and Architons and like larger ships for X-Wing, which I don't think they're going to do. I don't think there's enough. I think Epic and X-Wing is probably dead. But if they did larger ships, you could make a rule that those have to deploy first, and this way everything else deploys around them. So let's go up a little bit. I'm going to go up here. Have I ever played the FFG Star Wars role-playing game? No, I would love to. One of these days. What's the difference? No, that's not a question for me. A larger point cost might slow down the growth of the game. I don't know. I mean, it could just be an alternate format. And going up from 400 to 500 isn't such a significant increase. I don't think it's that big, especially when there are so many ships out there that you can get up to almost 200 points. I mean, that you can easily still run a 3-ship list at 500 points. Let's see. Remember April Fools, person 54. I don't know. I do an April Fools thing every year. So it's harder to know specifically. All right, so Bluton's 2 Noodles. I'm getting ready to see about Armada as a hobby of mine. Any suggestions on things to get when starting out other than the base set? Yes, I actually have an entire series of videos called What to Buy First for Armada. I have an old set of videos, and I recently just redid those based on Wave 7. So I'm going to tell you to go ahead and check those out because I don't have my lists right in front of me right now. Basically, though, for short, I'm going to say pick a ship that you really like and get that one first. Like, if there's a ship that you want most of all, get that first. Because Armada's got this meta where kind of everything goes. And that's an oversimplification of it because there is certain things that are meta and things that are kind of underpowered. But for the most part, one of the strengths of Armada is it's got so much more variety. Almost every single thing is viable. Let's see. Hey, what do you think would be cool new things for Legion? ATST. I don't think they can do it, but ATST, totally. Legion's coming out this week. A lot of excitement. I'm actually taking a couple days off of work. I'm going to stay home, play with my toys, do some painting. I'm gonna have unboxing videos up as soon as I can on Thursday because I was not one of the fortunate people to get a review copy. So I will be doing unboxings, which shouldn't be that new since they've already been done by other folks, but I will be doing my own as well. And then after that, we'll be doing some painting videos. I'm gonna have to do some assembly. So the unboxing videos, I'm not gonna do assembly in. We'll put everything together in the painting videos and all of that stuff. So that'll be coming out, and there'll be a lot of Legion content. If you hate Legion or have nothing to do with Legion, the next week is going to have some stuff that you're not. I'm going to have a lot of Legion content, but most of it, I'm going to get most of it out of my system within the first couple of weeks. Still going to be covering all the other games. Legion's probably not going to be my favorite game. Armada's probably still my favorite game. But I mean, I'm still going to be covering the games that I still cover. And the good news is that once Legion is out, I think the veil is going to go away, so we can actually get new announcements for other stuff. Which, I mean, I'm starved for announcements right now. I really want to see. They've got to announce a Scum Falcon for X-Wing. It's got to be coming. Like, who are we kidding? There's no Scum ship in this next wave, right? And there's got to be more stuff for Armada coming, and Imperial Assault definitely. Star Wars RPG is the best flipping thing. I bet. But RPGs are also, but they have a time requirement, and it's so hard. Like, I've gone for like 3 months without playing one of my games that I love. Like, I only get to play X-Wing a couple of times, like in short bursts, and I might go like 2 months without playing X-Wing. I've gone like 6 months without playing Armada at one point in time. I try to do that more frequently now, but like I have board games that I buy that I still have never played. And that's actually really unfortunate. I've got Labyrinth, and by River Horse, Jim Henson's Labyrinth, and it's still in the shrink wrap. And I've got Masmora under here. I've never played that. I've got a couple of other. I think I've played just about every other board game. I've got Legendary Encounters Firefly. I've never played that. Magic the Gathering. No, I played that one. Yeah, I've got a lot of games I've only played once. So, let's see. Am I able to do a vid with 4 other people? I think so. I mean, I think it would probably involve some kind of Skype. I have never tried to do it, but like I would be open to doing something like that, like doing like a live Skype session with other people. I think that would be something kind of fun. I just, I don't want it to feel forced, though. We'd actually have to have some cool stuff to talk about. So, and granted, there's always cool stuff to talk about. I could see doing like a episode 8, like civilized discussion, acknowledging its weaknesses, but also praising its strengths. Talking about like the hate and all the division and stuff like that. I could see that might be a worthwhile discussion to have. Legion should have a floating Death Star from Joe Jessup. That would be much too large considering the people are this big. That would have to be, about the size of Rhode Island. So Matthias Navarrete Lamas asks, I'm new to X-Wing, haven't bought a core set yet. What is the difference between core sets, and what would you recommend the Third Scum faction, and would I recommend the Third Scum faction early in the game? So, excellent questions. I do also have videos for what to buy first in X-Wing, but the first thing I'm going to say, the difference in the core sets is that they have completely different stuff. I would recommend getting the blue, because if you're only going to get one, but you're going to want both of them eventually. They have different stuff. So the original core set was based on the original trilogy. It has Luke Skywalker, has R2-D2, it has Biggs, and it has some named Imperial TIE Fighter pilots like Maul or Mythal is in there. A lot of good stuff, and a lot of stuff you can only get in that core set. Now the blue, the Force Awakens core set, is the same thing, but it's based on the sequel trilogy. So it's got Poe Dameron, and it's got BB-8, and it's got things like that from the sequel trilogy. As a T-70 X-Wing and TIE FOs versus the T-65 X-Wing that Luke Skywalker flies, and then the regular TIE fighters. So they're totally different stuff. They are compatible with one another. And also one of the biggest differences is that the Force Awakens core set is more updated. It has slightly more up-to-date rules. It has a newer damage deck and all kinds of things like that. So it's better to get the blue one first. And yeah, that's basically it. You better get the blue one first. They at one point they had made it the new damage deck from the blue set was mandatory, and then people kind of freaked out because like, wait, do I have to buy this new one? And then they said it's optional, but everybody kind of uses the new damage deck now. Also, you get some debris clouds and all kinds of new obstacles in there. All right, so let's see. Let's see. Am I more excited for Episode 9 or Dave Filoni's new animated series? That's a really good question from Carlton Leonard. I'm more excited about Episode 9. And there's a reason for that. Because I think you picked on two things that I'm both eager for. Problem is, we don't know anything about what Dave Filoni is doing next. All right, we don't know. We don't have a timeline. We don't know if it's going to involve all new characters or if it's going to have familiar faces. We don't know anything about this. So that's why it's hard for me. It's hard for the hype to really be there when it may be stuff that I hate. It may be all about Wookiees and they're all speaking in Shriwook and I can't understand it. And, because there's certain things that just annoy me. I'll be honest with you, I was not a fan of the Clone Wars, the animated series, the Clone Wars. And I'll probably go back and watch it again. I'm probably going to wait until maybe Disney gets their streaming service up because it's too much effort for me to watch it. And what I mean by that is I sit there and I turn on Netflix. I did this at work a long time ago when work used to allow us to watch Netflix movies at work before they blocked Netflix. And so during slow periods, I would just put on my headphones and I would have it going on a different monitor while I'm working. And I kind of watched it like I tried to multitask. And it was so confusing for me because the whole thing was scrambled. It's like they took all the episodes and they dropped them on the floor and just scooped them back up. And they were all completely out of order. And it drove me crazy. So that really put a sour taste in my mouth. And granted, there is a proper order and you can find them online. I know that. I know that. But dude, that it soured it for me. So I'll come back and watch them in regular order again. I tried doing this one time, but it was too much of a hassle, like keeping a different browser open and skipping to a different episode every single time. So when Disney puts them out, I'm hoping they order them correctly, and then I'll give it a chance. That's what I'm hoping to do. All right. Would I do a massive blocks? Would I do a 4-person thing for a Battle of Armada? I don't know what you mean. Like a 4-player battle? I mean, potentially. The problem with a 4-player battle, like recording that, would take forever. And the reason it would take forever is because there's a lot of teamwork, and they're like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? What should we do? Blah blah blah. And then my camera battery's gonna die. So it's harder for me to do stuff like that. And at the same time, a 4-player battle, effectively becomes a two-player battle because there's only two sides. So I don't like splitting up a game as often. Sometimes I'm okay with it because for casual formats it's cool to just get a lot of people playing. And I've done it before, but I'm not a big fan of that format. I'm not a big fan of like taking a two-side game and making it more than two players. Because then you're just really like there's or the Rebels. So let's say we've got like three versus three. Well, unless one of us can actually be the true winner, we all kind of have to agree. No. Like if I want to fly my ship straight into the Empire, you know, the other two people are gonna be like, dude, don't do that. That's a bad idea. And I kind of have to acquiesce to what the group says. And so I don't have true freedom to just cause chaos. So if you ever find yourself playing a game of Zombicide or a full cooperative game with me, you watch out because I might just take that opportunity to cause some chaos. I'm like, I think I'm going to open this door. I'm like, don't open that door. I'm like, I'm opening the door. Oh my God, there's so many zombies behind it. Because I just like doing, you know, it's a cooperative game. And the part of the freedom I enjoy having is to cause chaos. So, which is one reason I backed this game called Nemesis that's on Kickstarter. And, well, it's not on Kickstarter anymore. It's done, but it's going to have hidden roles. So it's a cooperative, but one person could be like the killer, and there's multiple killing roles apparently. So that's going to be fun. Well, Thrindal asks, what would I like for a live-action streaming series? Old Republic, Underworld, Outer Rim? Yes, all of those. All of those, absolutely. I am a little bit less thrilled with the idea of Old Republic, only because, I mean, it sounds like it could work on a number of levels. The problem is it's a whole new timeline, so all the technology would be different. And so it would be harder to take stuff from this older timeline and dump them into Armada and dump them into X-Wing, because you're looking at like a 1,000-year-old ship. How is that going to be competitive with X-Wing, right? So from a gaming perspective, Old Republic stuff is harder to just get in, you know, to get behind. But I think on all the other levels, it could totally work, especially if it's mostly human and humanoid, because, you know, makeup, budgets, things like that. If you have a lot of old Jedi walking and talking, you know, it would be very similar to like Game of Thrones. It can work for a lot of the same reasons that a show like Game of Thrones works. So you have that, and you've got, you know, Old Republic's rich too, and it's so far in the past, depending on where they do it, that a lot of things can be up for grabs. Like, you know, oh, this super villain dude, well, he could totally die in the first season, and then there's a new super villain next time, because you don't already know his fate or his destiny. You know, when the future for some characters aren't pre-written, that's one of the reasons I'm less excited about the Han Solo movie, because you know Lando and Han and Chewie are safe. Ain't nothing gonna happen to them, you know. So I mean, nothing that bad. But if it's more in the, you know, established timelines or around the time of the Galactic Civil War, I could be way more excited behind it. When the Star Wars Alkaline Divide, when the Star Wars movies are done, do you think they'll ever reboot it like Star Trek? I think so, but I don't think it'll be for a long time. I don't think it'll be while George Lucas is alive, unless he gives his explicit blessing for something like that. And it's a shame, because I could foresee a remake of like A New Hope, for example, the original trilogy. You know, because you've got Sebastian Stan, who plays the Winter Soldier. Like he's a really good match for Luke Skywalker. So like we're living in a time right now where you have, you know, actors that could really do it. Billie Lourd, Carrie Fisher's daughter, really good match for Leia, because she's her daughter, you know, and that would be perfect. But I don't think that's going to happen. I think one of the things we might see, if we ever see other actors take the place of these roles, is I think you might see like a post-Return of the Jedi movie about Luke. I think you could see something like that at some point. Also, keep in mind, the Legends universe isn't like a dead universe. The EU isn't dead. It's just put in a separate universe. So think about Marvel Comics, right? Marvel Comics has all their different universes. And specifically, they have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which does draw inspiration from the comics. It doesn't mean the comics aren't, you know, valid or whatever. They're just not canon to the MCU. But they borrow from that. Well, nothing stops other movies from being made. Look at how, for example, Sony will make like a Spider-Man universe, and reboot new Spider-Man. So you've got like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. That's its own universe. You've got the other dude Spider-Man, in his own universe. And then you got Spider-Man Homecoming, 3 different universes. At a certain point, once Disney feels comfortable doing it, there's nothing to stop them from doing a Legends movie. All right, and then they could do like Heir to the Empire. They could do that whole trilogy if they wanted to. But this won't happen for a long time. But it's totally possible. Or not. They could start a whole separate universe too, and it could be like a what if universe. And it could always be some kind of forced rapture, like we've seen in A World Between Worlds and Rebels, that there's like, you know, basically Ezra went into the Force and he could change something. Well, they could use that as a premise for a whole forked off version of the original trilogy where, all right, well, let's say somebody whispered into Obi-Wan and Yoda's ear, you know, send the boy to Alderaan. And then we'll say, you know, Leia goes to Tatooine and Luke goes to Alderaan. And let's see what happens when all of that changes, you know, and that could warrant an entire reboot of the trilogy, the original trilogy, but now something's different. So now certain things might happen in different ways. Massive Blocks asks, what is your favorite Star Wars character, and if you could, would you star in a Star Wars movie? Absolutely, I would star in a Star Wars movie. I mean, that's I think I would be more likely, because I'm starting to get old, I think it's more likely I would do voice acting or something like that. But I don't think I would end up being, you know, a star in a Star Wars movie. But then again, they do have old commanders and stuff like that. I could try and do a Garm Bel Iblis or something like that. But my favorite Star Wars character, I think we're going to have to look at some different aspects. I'm going to give you a couple, because it's unfair for me to just pick one off the top of my head. But out of the sequel trilogy right now, I'm going to go... Part of me always wanted to say Finn. Finn was the most enjoyable for me. And I really, really like John Boyega. But after watching Last Jedi a couple more times, I really like the direction that Poe is going. I am starting to also come around to a lot of people's criticisms of the Rey character. As much as I do like Daisy Ridley, I think the Rey character is a little bit too unrelatable because she doesn't seem to have any real weaknesses. She's not exactly perfect, but she's a little too perfect for me to really get, invested in that character. But it's either Finn right now, maybe Kylo Ren. Kind of like Kylo Ren out of the new trilogy too, just because I think he still can be redeemed. And if he doesn't end up getting redeemed, then I'm going to be really annoyed because I want him to be redeemed in a really good way. I want to be wowed with what they do to him because I think he's got potential there. Now, original trilogy, Lando, but I also really like Luke Skywalker, and I also always really, really liked Darth Vader. Never really was a big fan of Boba Fett. I like Boba Fett, but he never stood out to me because he didn't have enough screen time. So it's got to be Lando from the original trilogy. That's my man. Lando is my Mando. Although the Gamorrean guards were pretty awesome too. The Gamorrean guards don't get enough attention. Now, if we go to the sequel or the prequels, now it gets interesting because I've got to say Qui-Gon Jinn. Although a big part of me still kind of thinks Grievous is cool looking. There's a lot of visual cool stuff about Grievous. Maul, visually and acrobatically, was really, really awesome. But Qui-Gon Jinn was Liam freaking Neeson. And as much as I love Obi-Wan Kenobi, he didn't really become the Obi-Wan Kenobi that I love until Episode 3. But Qui-Gon right away was just awesome. And objectively, if you've ever had a problem with the prequels, what I want you to do is go back and watch Phantom Menace up until they run into and meet Jar Jar Binks on the planet. Up until that point, it was pretty cool. Dude, like all the Qui-Gon Jinn scenes are much better. Like, he kind of made that movie for me. I'm a big fan of Qui-Gon. All right, let's go up. I missed a whole bunch. I went off on that one. That was a loaded question. But I'm probably forgetting certain characters that I really liked, too. The Darth Jar Jar theory, Jeremy Goudreau. Yes, the Darth Jar Jar theory was awesome. I didn't hear about that one for years. The Mando Commando asks, what is your favorite X-Wing ship from each faction? Favorite X-Wing ship from each faction? Scum is going to be the Protectorate fighter. I just like it that it's quick and fast and in your face. And then there's Mandalorians. Mandalorians are cool. Even though I just got done saying that Boba didn't intrigue me that much. The Mandalorians as a whole are growing on me, and I like Fen Rao. Especially like Fen Rao. Out of the Rebels, it's definitely the B-Wing. And the Empire, it's still the TIE Advanced. Still the TIE Advanced. Especially ever since they upgraded it. Love it. Alright. Let's see. Not getting into the Kathleen Kennedy discussion right now, because I don't feel that is particularly constructive. I know a lot of people just want to hammer on, you know, there was things I did not like about Last Jedi either, but, you know, it is what it is. Sabine ruined the... Oh. No, she didn't. Alright, let's see. Let's find some more questions. Out of the new... Alright, Aussie asks, out of the new trilogy, what ship would I want to be an armada for both factions? All of them, with the exception of the Supremacy. Do not want the Supremacy in Armada just because it's too big. Like, I just don't even think that's feasible. The one now, what am I looking forward to the most is a tough one. Like the Raddus, it'd be nice to see a really, really big Rebel ship. The Raddus excites me because it's the largest thing we've ever seen from the good guys. So I like that. But out of all of the different ships they could add, like the Nebulon Sea would be really cool. And I always forget the name of that first ship that gets blown up. That's kind of got the back of a Nebulon and then the front of a Dreadnought, and it looks a little bit like an MC-30. And I bought the visual dictionary, and it just had the name of the one ship. It didn't have the class. But I know it was in the cutaway guide. Because there was 2 books that came out for Last Jedi. I did not get the cutaway guide, so I need. But I like all of the ships. I think the Ninka would be is the one that I'm probably most excited about playing, just because they go into a lot of description on that one's capabilities. It had ordnance on it called a bunker buster, you know, and so I think it would have black dice. I think it would. I think the Ninka would be a pretty good ship. And the Neb C was just a medical frigate in that movie, so like it didn't seem like it was just a support ship. All right, they need a. Yeah, no, I think that one would be good. But for the First Order, I want to see that Dreadnought. Of course, we'll see the Finalizer, right? Like that one's all over the place. We see a lot of those. But the Dreadnought would represent a challenge for a game like Armada that doesn't really have. We don't know what they're going to do with like the huge ships like the Superstar Destroyers. I'm still convinced that it's got to be coming. All right, there's still a missing number, and we still don't have Piet. I don't know what they're waiting for. If they're waiting for just the perfect time to release it, or if it's had to go back and test. Sometimes something will like kind of be ready, and they'll say, you know what, no, scrap this. And that could be why we're having so much time in between waves. But yeah, I think if the Dreadnought is in between, it's like half the size of the Executor. So, like, you could potentially... Most people wouldn't even argue about it fitting on the tabletop. It could totally fit on the tabletop. And with the sliding scale, it wouldn't even have to be that much bigger than, like, X-Wing's Epic ships. It would only have to be, like, a little bit bigger than that for it to theoretically, work in the game. Because Armada's got a sliding scale. X-Wing has tried to keep it closer to, an exact scale, but sometimes they've come farther off the mark. Devontae Morrison. Do I prefer to use the Interdictor or the Gladiator? You've been getting your butt kicked lately. Right now, the Interdictor is awesome. It's like one of the best ships in the game right now, I think. Check out my Interdictor breakdown for Armada. It's so good between disposable capacitors, heavy ion emplacements. Those right alone make it like very formidable. And the new rules with being able to stop Raddus with those Gravwells staying out. It's great. I love the Interdictor. I definitely would prefer the Interdictor over the Gladiator. Gladiator, I want to use more of them without Demolisher because it's like a challenge there. But yeah, the Interdictor totally is better. Let's see. We'll find some more questions. So the Mando Commando. Do you think they should add Clone Wars ships to X-Wing? Should is a... And I talked about this earlier. I don't know. You may have tuned in a little bit later, but they're not going to be able to just add Clone Wars ships. They have done some, but they have to get special permission because from what I understand, basically heard from a guy who heard from a guy is it all boils down to licenses. FFG can make Clone Wars stuff for Destiny because they've got like a full overarching license for Destiny to be able to make stuff anywhere. But when X-Wing started, they only had license for the Galactic Civil War. That being said, they also seemed to have acquired a license for the sequel trilogy once Force Awakens came out, and it was probably pretty cheap because they only had one movie in the trilogy so far. It was also brand new; they were trying to push it, so I'm sure they gave them a discount. Especially if you think about it, if you're Disney, you're trying to promote your new series of movies. You want as much product out there as possible. So a company is like, hey, can we make stuff from this movie? Well, yeah, normally we would only charge, we would charge you 50% of your profits, but for this one, we'll only charge you 20%, or whatever. I don't know how those things work. But the idea, the principle behind it is the same. Like, they're going to want these products out there. They're going to want stores to have new product on the shelf from the Force Awakens trilogy. What incentive is there right now for Disney to say, oh, well, let's get products on the shelf from the Clone Wars? Like, that doesn't match up anything to anything they're doing right now. So for them to give FFG the license to make Clone Wars stuff in X-Wing, it would probably be expensive because FFG doesn't also gain, like, if Disney's having you do stuff for the Han Solo movie, they're double dipping, right? Because they get a licensing fee from this company or royalties, but then they're also promoting their product, so it's like a commercial for them at the same time. Well, Disney doesn't benefit by having a commercial for the Clone Wars, so I don't think it's as likely that's going to happen, or it's just going to charge FFG a lot. So FFG would have to have really big demand, or you guys may be able to reach out to FFG and say, hey, we are willing to pay double for Clone Wars ships in X-Wing or Armada, and that maybe that would incentive, because I think if they bought this license from Disney to make those things, I think it would probably cost a lot more, and thus it would raise the cost of those ships, and then people will complain, well, how come the Clone Wars stuff costs twice as much as the other stuff, and so that's probably it. That's my guess. All right, let's go up. Do I think Armada will come out with an Imperial Lancer frigate? I don't. I think because they just canonized the Dreadnought, which they're not the same. I get that, but they called it something new. They didn't call it a Dreadnought because Dreadnought is used for like the larger ships and everything. But we all know it as a Dreadnought. But yeah, in the Rebels finale, there was, like, even in the commercial, they had the, I think they give it a new name, but it's a support ship. It's like an Imperial support ship or whatever. But basically, it's a Dreadnought, and I think it's going to fit the bill there. It's close enough. I think as long as we continue to have new ships brought into canon in the Galactic Civil War, we're going to continue to have, more and more ships there, and thus ships not pulled from the EU or from Legends. Let's see. I'm looking for more questions here. Earlier I said Old Republics wouldn't do well in Armada or X-Wing because their technology is... Well, yeah, but those are new hammerheads. So Joe Bonanno says that I was talking about earlier. I said I would have a hard time getting behind an Old Republic, or I would have a hard time getting really excited about an Old Republic series or movie, just because the technology in the ships and the characters and the vehicles would have a harder time translating to fit with modern stuff. Like are we going to get a starfighter from 1,000 years ago to go up against a T-65 X-Wing, things like that. And he brings up, well, the hammerheads are there. Yes, I realize that hammerheads were also in Old Republic timeline, but from what I understand, I think Pablo Hidalgo talked about it. He said, "Are these the same hammerheads from?" Like he was asked on Rebels Recon at one point, and he said that they were new versions of them. It's not the same guts as the old ones. It's a similar style. So kind of like when Ford comes out with a 2019 Mustang, it's not the same car as that 1960s Mustang, but it's still a Mustang. So it's like, I think it's like that. But I could be wrong. I mean, it could be that the technology just doesn't, is still good. Like they still have lightsabers 1,000 years ago, so maybe the difference in ships isn't all that extreme, but I think it's meant to be a little, enough that you shouldn't have 3 attack ships, without some tremendous disadvantage. It should be harder for them to compete. All right. Let's see. Yeah, all right, yeah, Pablo did say that. Thanks for Ethan Borden confirmed. Yeah, Pablo said they weren't the same design, but they were similar. And that counts, but I think it's because it's the same planet or the same company or the same culture that's making them. So naturally, they're going to look very similar. So I think they will add. Oh, who's this? What's this asking? The Mando Commando. Do you think they will add Krennic's shuttle in X-wing or Armada soon? I hope not. Only because we got so many shuttles. Maybe in Armada. Maybe, but hopefully not an X-wing, because between the regular shuttle and the Upsilon, and I don't think we need any more 3-point tipped shuttles. We're getting too much of that. And then we also have Krennic coming in the next. The closest we're going to get to that is the Reaper, the TIE Reaper, because you're getting Krennic in there. All right, so I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it was a cool enough shuttle to really warrant being on my tabletop anyway. But maybe I'm wrong. I mean, if we get to a point where we gotta pull, like we ran out of ships, then fine. But considering we just got the Upsilon, well, it feels like it was just last year, I think. I'm not really hurting for another shuttle. Let's see. Have I seen the Bruce Lee video where they put in lightsaber nunchucks? Yes, and I've had about 1 million people link me that video. So it's great, but 4 weeks after it came out, I'm still getting like a couple of emails every day. Like, hey, have you seen this? Have you seen this? And I'm like, yeah, I've seen it, and so I haven't even been able to respond to everybody who sent it to me. So if you sent me one of the links to that video, I've seen it. I appreciate that you were thinking of me when you saw it. I definitely do. I just get, I've had it sent to me so many times. It was a little overwhelming. Thrindle, I think we will get Krennic in Armada? Legion for sure, but how about Armada? Yeah, absolutely. I don't see any reason why we wouldn't get Krennic in Armada. He seems perfect. I mean, we have other ground commanders. Tag was a general and not an admiral, but we've got him. So there's no reason we can't get generals in a space combat game. It's not perfect, but we got to work with what you got. He's a big enough character that of course you should get him. So no, I think it's. Now I don't know what ship he'll come with. Maybe they'll do something different, right? They said that something big is coming for Armada. I've been saying for a while that I want. Sorry, I'm turning away. I was thinking about getting something from Mel's Miniatures. He's got like space stations where you can like dock a couple of your Star Destroyers to each other or whatever. Even if I was thinking about getting something like that, even if it wasn't for gameplay, but just something that I could have on my shelf that I could sit my Star Destroyers and dock them up to when when they weren't really, like the Fondor shipyard from Battlefront 2 or that basically that shield gate in Rogue One. So if they wanted to do some kind of like scenery expansion for Armada, like a space station based expansion for Armada, which I would love for them to do, kind of take it outside of the box a little bit. I think it'd be a great opportunity for them to put Krennic in. Would I rather see the Fulminatrix or the Executor? I'm getting Fulminatrix confused with Executrix, which I think was Tarkin's one of his Star Destroyers that he was on. I think it was a Was it an ISD or was the Executor? Anyway, I'm drawing a blank on what exactly the Fulminatrix is right now, so I apologize for that. But I would rather see the Executor. It's high cannon, and it's going to have Piet. I'm sure it will. Let's see. Kyro Void, I've already been asked my favorite ship from each faction. It's B-Wing for the Rebels, the TIE Advanced for the Empire, and the Protectorate Fighter, the Fang for Scum. With Thrawn was no. Parker McClintock, was Thrawn the something big? No, he was not. So at the Gamma trade show, they talked about what was coming. And somebody, was asked, or asked them, you last year at Gen Con, you said something big was coming for Armada. Is that going to be the something big? Or is that still true? Is something big coming? He's like, oh, yeah, I did say that, didn't I? Well, I think I've already said too much. So obviously, if Wave 7 was the something big, he would have been like, that was Wave 7. But he was like, afraid to give any details on what the something big that he was talking about that's coming is. So that means it's something super cool. That's best I can put. That means it's probably something super, super, super cool. Yes. So again, probably the Executor, probably with Piet, maybe with the Emperor. I could see the Emperor showing up as either a commander or just a really powerful crew. And I don't know how all that would work. He'd have to be awesome. They like to put him in games. He's in Destiny, he's in X-Wing, he's in Rebellion. Yeah, you gotta have the Emperor. Alright. What is my take on the whiny Anakin problem, and do I think it was fixed in the Clone Wars? I think that was Lucas trying to make him like Luke, like trying to make them family. Luke was also whiny, and I think they were trying to make them act similar. He was definitely different in the Clone Wars. I feel like he's a totally different character. But yeah, totally different character, basically. I honestly, I think the fix for like the prequels and with Anakin and all that, I think that was Star Wars Rebels. Because to me, and I've said this several times, if you followed me for a while, you've probably heard me say it at one point at least, that Rebels seemed like an apology for the prequels. Because everything that, before the prequels came out, you had the original trilogy, you had Obi-Wan describing his relationship with Anakin, and Obi-Wan describing the past. He was a good friend. I took it upon myself to train him as a Jedi. I thought I could instruct him like Yoda had instructed me, and all of these things. And that was much closer to Kanan and Ezra's relationship than what actually happened. Because when you watch the prequels, you never got that feeling that Anakin and Obi-Wan were friends. Like, Anakin starts arguing with Obi-Wan, like, right away in the Clone Wars, as soon as he's grown up. The first time you see, actually, Anakin as Obi-Wan's apprentice, they're fighting. And Anakin's, like, doing, like, acting like a complete brat. And it's like they're trying to tell you, oh, don't forget, he's going to become Darth Vader, so we got to start sowing the seeds. No, you needed to build up that friendship first, And this is nitpicking, because this is what we do, right? But I feel like Rebels really built up that Kanan and Ezra were friends. And so that when Ezra was getting close to turning to the dark side, it was all like, oh my gosh, is this the whole same thing? But they did it like, all right, but he didn't. So like, if you wanted to ask yourself, what would happen if Obi-Wan and Anakin, like if Anakin didn't fully fall to the dark side and Obi-Wan was able to save him, well, that's Rebels. Basically, that's pretty much it. Will I be playing Sea of Thieves? I'll be honest with you. I've seen commercials for Sea of Thieves or ads pop up. I don't even know. It's a pirate game, I guess. Is Sea of Thieves for PC? Because if it's for Xbox, my kids aren't going to let me play it because they're playing Minecraft and Roblox on Xbox all the time. So no, I don't really know anything about Sea of Thieves. Is it an MMO? Is it a casual game? Even my favorite computer game right now is Overwatch, and I'm lucky if I can play that like for 20 minutes on an evening. I mean I love it, but it's like I just have so much going on. I don't end up doing that. Let's see. Do I think the Dornian gunship and the Dreadnought cruiser will be beefed small ships in Armada? Dornian gunship better be, and I hope it's an awesome heavy attack small ship. I'm very excited about that one. The Dreadnought is not going to be called a Dreadnought. It'll be called an Imperial Support Ship. But I hope it does something to work in large numbers. I hope it kind of gets like the Hammerhead treatment, in that it gets titles that you put on other ones and they all work together. I just want something to mirror the Katana. It should be called a Katana Fleet title, basically. And I also want it to be dual faction. I don't think they'll do that, but I want it to be. And also, I want it to be a medium ship. We don't know the exact size yet, because the perspectives might have been a little bit skewed a little bit. I just hope it's just big enough to be a medium ship, because I want more medium ships. And then if it's dual faction, that means the Rebels can use it also. Yes, let's see. Do I think they could bring in Snoke's ship? No, absolutely too big. Absolutely. And if they did, I would... I don't know. Maybe it's the same argument. I've always been in defense of the Executor, or the Executor, but I don't think they'll bring in Snoke's ship. I don't think they're going to do that. It's just too much. Just too much. Alright, guys. Well, I think I'm going to wind it down. That's going to do it. Before I do, I want to tell you guys about some of the stuff that's coming up. I do have... Let's see. I got some more reviews. I've got to review Giant Killer Robots Heavy Hitters. That one's actually... This one turned out to be a lot more fun than I expected. A really cool miniatures game that has some flaws, but I like it. I've got to do some more... let's see. I'm trying to do some more board game reviews in general. I've got some more Kickstarters that are still going to be coming. I actually tried out the new Green Horde for Zombicide. I don't know if I'll do a review just for that until I get all the other stuff, because this one, they just shipped you the base game early. All the rest of the Kickstarter stuff didn't come in yet. But yes, so I'm excited about that. I'll take one last question, and it's... What is the origin of lightsaber nunchucks? Lightsaber nunchucks. Dude, I've always wanted... When I played EverQuest 2, I played a bruiser, and I was always campaigning to get nunchucks into that game. And then that grew to be something that I fell in love with. I just started to really like nunchucks, and I always, like, in any game I play, if there's a character that can use nunchucks, I want to be that character. It just grew on me, and so it transcended into Star Wars. And dude, in Last Jedi, when that one guy separated his two swords, it looked like bladed nunchucks, and its movement had it sounded like a chain. So I was like, for a second, I thought we had basically nunchucks in Star Wars there for a second. Maybe like I kind of exploded a little bit, but it wasn't actually. It was just a sound effect. But yeah, and then Legion is coming up this coming week, so a lot of... I'm not getting it before. I'm not getting it before the launch date. I wish I was, although maybe maybe I'll be lucky and a box will show up from FFG and like, oh, here you go. So no, I'm getting it locally. I pre-ordered one of everything and an extra core set, and I'm gonna get more than that, but I just did that to start out, because buying into a new game is expensive. So I'm starting off with one of everything plus an extra core set, and then I will pick up the extras when I, here and there. Like sometimes I'll play in a tournament and they say, oh, you have to buy something. I'm like, okay, well, I'll pick up that second ATST now, or stuff like that. Because honestly, with Legion, you're not going to run 2 ATSTs unless you just want to do it for fun. And that's fine. That's totally fine. It's not really great. All right, but I need to wrap it up. So, thank you guys so much for watching. Even giveaways going on right now, so make sure you are subscribed and click the bell for alerts. And but I have another round of giveaway that just started, I think, yesterday or today. I'm not sure. Thank you guys so much for watching, and have a great evening. Yeah, that's gonna do it.